Hi guys, John Russell here, internationally known professional psychic, paranormal investigator, and published author. And today I want to talk about the overlook. We tend to overlook a lot of reality. You may have heard the old saying, perception overrules reality. And that's the absolute truth. We can perceive that we're doing a lot better than we actually are, and that things are better than they actually are. What I want to specifically address is how we go through life and how we ignore the reality of the situations that we're in, and I think we do so at our peril. A lot of people that I have known over the years that have been wealthy will tell me that their lifestyle, their home and or homes, automobiles, trips, vacations, big bank accounts are the result of their state of mind, that they've manifested that through the power of their mind. No, they haven't. If it were so easy to manifest wealth simply by the power of your mind, none of us would be in dire straits. We'd all be able to pay our bills, buy new cars, buy new houses, and take vacations and eat what we wanted and do what we wanted. That's a huge fallacy. Over the years, I've talked to a lot of people that have said, I manifested all this with my mind, with my aura, with my emotions, with my positivity, with my love. No, you haven't. You manifested that with your big bank account. And how did you get that big bank account? Unless you were extremely, enormously talented and brilliant at something, and good at parlaying that into a perceived need, which went viral and jillions of people spent money for it, and you were an excellent business manager with a lot of acumen and either had it naturally or learned it or whatever, and were able to manage that money and invest it successfully and keep that enterprise going, unless you were that rare individual, no, you didn't. You didn't manifest it. You inherited it. You had the right connections. You had the right loans, the right monetary or financial gifts, the right insider information to get you on the fast track to something. I've talked to so many people that said, I wanted to do something and I focused on it and I wrote it down, I concentrated on it, I manifested it. No, you didn't. Your pocketbook manifested it. A dearly beloved one of mine said, I wanted to do this and I manifested it. And I said, no, you didn't. Your pocketbook manifested it. You had the money to make it happen. And if you had been poor, you would have wanted this with all of your might and all of your being and not been able to accomplish it, which is what happens to us. Now, that's irrefutable. Look, I know there's been a lot of prosperity gospels preached in Christianity over the years, for example. In the spiritual realm, the psychic realm, there's that equivalent. Visualization, the law of attraction, and so on and so forth. Most of the time it doesn't work, because if it did, there wouldn't be a lot of us poor folk trying to pay our bills. We'd all be doing well, but we're not. If you look around, most of the people that have achieved something financially have had a good, stable start, a good family with a good income. Not everybody, but most. And the family helped them out, staked them to their first pot so they could use that money for investment or to further their goal or whatever. And they had good connections. Good connections can't be minimized. If I were incredibly smart, an incredibly intelligent person, and knew how to apply all of that, and I had health, and I had good looks, and I had all of this and all of that and all the other, but I pissed the wrong person off that's in power along the way, guess what? I ain't going nowhere. The worst thing we do is tell each other, you can be anything you want to be. No, you can't. To tell me that I could be anything I wanted to be when one of my desires was to be a really good athlete. Now, I was an athlete, but not a good one. And I wanted to be a really good one. But for my entire life, I've been plagued with chronic, severe, and weird health issues, and one of which has been asthma and COPD. Asthma since I was a kid, COPD since I was in my 20s. And I have heart issues, I have ankylosing spondylitis, I have degenerative arthritis. Now combine all those things together, and I won't even go into other things, there's still other issues, health issues. But combine all those things together and then tell me, John, if you really, really, really want it, you could be the next marathon champion of the U.S. Oh, my Lord. There are people that are born with good health and have an innate ability to run and have good lungs and have a good heart and all that. And they're not the marathon champion of the U.S. They may want it, they may desire it, they may need it, they may crave it, but they don't get there. Only a select few do. And we haven't figured out why that is. The lead singer of Pearl Jam, I saw him in an interview one time at one of my favorite bands, Pearl Jam, by the way, and one of my favorite singers. And I saw him in an interview, and he said, he said, I don't understand our fame. And I'm just paraphrasing him, but this is what he said, basically. He said, I don't understand our fame. I don't understand the reason for it and how we achieved it. When, in my opinion, there are a lot of bands out there that are really great bands. Some of them as good and or better than we are, and they didn't make it. Why did we? That's always the question. There was an interview I saw with Phil Donahue one time, and he was talking about Oprah. And he said him and all his fellow talk show hosts couldn't understand why Oprah made it and they didn't. He said, we had the same quality guests, we had the same formats, we had the same presentations, we were all presentable, we were all intelligent, we all had good solid shows, we had interesting guests, and here comes Oprah along, blows us all out of the water. Now why did she rise to stardom, that's superstardom, and we didn't? We were there before her, we were doing the same things, and here comes along Oprah and rises to superstardom. How come her and not us? Good questions. We don't understand that. Some people get the break, it seems like, and other people don't. So that's one thing we need to do when we're talking with people, is not just bring out the old cliche of, well, be positive, think positive, you can achieve anything you want, it'll happen, it'll be good, you can do this, you can succeed. Yeah, maybe not. I do not have a facility for numbers at all. I am literally lucky to balance my bank account. Now with that, it would be kind of stupid for somebody to tell me, you know what, you ought to go to work for NASA on the launch control, figuring out trajectories for rockets and fuel amounts and coming up with new formulations and all this and all that and trajectories for satellites and that's what you ought to do. Yeah, with my math background, yeah. And no matter how much I have studied, no matter how much I've tried, no matter how many tutors I have gotten, I still do good to make 2 + 2 = 4. Which brings me to a valid point. We all have abilities and talents. We all have niches to fill. Some of those abilities and talents don't stretch as far as others, and that's where we get into trouble, is when we begin to compare ourselves and our abilities and talents to other people's and try to rise to that level of competence in an area where we're not competent to begin with and most likely never will be, such as my capability in mathematics. You just haven't had the right teacher. I have had every tutor in college. I had a friend of mine one time, we were sitting at the bar together, and he said, John, I can teach you rudimentary algebra in 15 minutes, get this solved for you, figured out for you, you'll be on your way, you'll do okay with this. I said, okay, show me. So we sit there in the bar, and he took a napkin, got a pen, and he started drawing out problems and explaining things and this, that, and the other. Okay, now you do this. And he did a rudimentary problem based on what he had already explained to me, told me to solve it. I looked at it and went, for about a minute. And he grabbed the napkin and he wadded it up and he laughed and he said, John, don't take this the wrong way. I love you and you're my friend. But he said, you're not a dumb person. He says, as a matter of fact, you're one of the most intelligent people I know. But he said, you're the stupidest smart person that I know. So look, we all don't have certain talents. We may want them. We may want to play piano at a concert hall and make people rapturous with our ability to tickle the ivories with classical music or whatever, and we may study for years and years and years and practice and practice and practice, and people may go, he's fair to listen to, but I can't take too much of him, and that may be the extent of it. The simple desire for something doesn't mean that we can obtain it. I think that's the lesson in life we need to learn. The simple desire to have something does not mean that we're going to obtain it. Okay? Harsh fact of life. Another thing that grinds on my nerves lately is there's been a plethora of people, particularly during the pandemic now. Boy, God sure is good. God sure has blessed me. God sure has blessed us. And most of the time, if you look at the people proclaiming that, boy, God sure is good. Boy, God answers prayer. It's from people that have a lot. They're wealthy. They're well off. They have a new car every year if they need it. They have all the vacations they want. They eat where they want. They have a house paid for. They have plenty of money in the bank. Boy, God sure is good. Yeah, well, go and tell that to the guy that's living in the cardboard box on the street. He's not going to agree with you that God's so good. God's good for you because you got that money in the bank. Boy, God's good to me. Boy, God is good. Any life is good. God answers prayer. Well, yeah, when you're living that way, it's easy to think that. Give all that up, go live on the street, and you're going to have a different outlook and a different attitude. I guarantee you. It's like the old saying that the victor, the victorious, write history. In other words, this happened because I say so. I won. I write the history books. This is how it occurred. And if you go back and talk to the common people, so-called, that were there, you're going to get an entirely different perspective. So a lot of things that people praise and are happy about is because they're in good circumstances. Another thing you have to understand, the other side of that coin, is that people that, oh, God's good, isn't he? Or the people that are clinging on, barely holding on for dear life. They've got a house, maybe rented, maybe mortgaged up to the hilt, and they're barely making the payments. And they got an old wore-out mattress they can lay down on at night and rest. And they, well, thank God I got this house, I got this mattress. Look at what you're thanking God for. You're thanking God for barely holding on. You got a house you can't afford and may slip out from under you at any moment. You got an old raggedy mattress that you can barely rest on. And you're giving praise to be able to go home exhausted and fall into an old raggedy bed and get up and do it all over again the next day. Wow, that doesn't sound like the abundant life to me. Well, thank God I'm holding on. Yeah, I say that too. I just recently had a bad health scare that I thought might have bought the farm. Had to have a heart catheterization. Heart catheterizations can cause strokes, heart attacks, paralysis, death, a number of other things. And I came out of it okay, thank God. But you know, look at my poor life circumstance that I had to undergo that I had to endure that, and that I had to worry about those things. And yeah, thank God I didn't, but man, look at what led me up to that. I'd have rather been healed and healthy and not had to undergo all this. So that's the constant struggle that we're facing, and I think we have to get down in the trenches and realize that, you know, life isn't all roses and beauty and all this. There's a lot of ugliness out there. There's a lot of disease, a lot of sickness, a lot of death, a lot of illness, a lot of poverty, a lot of failure. And all the positive thinking in the world, and all the praising God in the world, and all the spiritual tools and techniques, visualization, laws of attraction in the world are not necessarily going to resolve it. So what do? Well, I'll do another short video on that and explain some techniques and tools that may work, may help. Usually do, sometimes do, not always, but may help. So just keep it real. You know, look, there's a lot of people right now, a lot of my friends are sick with COVID and have died from COVID. I had a dear friend, my best friend growing up, my best friend my lifelong. died of it, either with it or from it, and that hurts to this day. So there's a lot out there that's not right. And instead of just, oh, praise God, everything's good, look, I got up again. Well, guess what? Look at the world you got up to and what's going on in the world. What do we do about that? Well, we're warriors of light. Warriors enter into battle. Battle hurts. You suffer wounds, you suffer injuries, you watch your comrades fall by the wayside, and you keep fighting. We're spiritual warriors. We're warriors of light. And warriors go into battle, and not all battles are victorious. Or with some battles, there's a lot of loss in that battle. But what we have to do is keep moving forward realistically. Look at the situations we're in, arm ourselves properly, and go into battle with spiritual tools and techniques that are effective, protecting ourselves as we do so, and realize that we're going to get knocked around. If we insulate ourselves from the world and we hide behind our money and say, well, boy, God's good, yeah, go home to your luxurious bed and your however many thread count sheets and your gigantic big screen TV in your bedroom and try not to watch the news, then life's pretty good, yeah. But if you are a single mom with a sick kid and you've done all you can in life to better yourself and you're still working a low-end job, not making enough money, you don't have a lot to go home and praise God about or be thankful about. So we have to look at reality. I hate, do what you love and the money will follow. You know, I started drawing when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I drew well enough that when people saw those drawings, they would go, did he trace these or do these freehand? I did them freehand. And I became a professional fine artist and a professional photographer. I could no more quit doing art than I could quit breathing. I love it. I love drawing. I love painting. I love photography. I've absolutely relished it my entire life. When I was a kid growing up, I would fill those, those 5-section spiral bound notebooks. I would fill every single page of those, notebook after notebook after notebook after notebook, with drawings. I could never stop drawing. I could never stop painting. I could never stop taking photographs. I love it. I absolutely adore it. Hasn't ever made me a living. I've been in some nice shows, been in a few nice collections, got some paintings and photographs sold, scattered across the U.S. and even overseas. Haven't made a living at it. Do what you love and the money will follow. Well, that's a big lie. I have loved art my entire life, and I have scrabbled and scratched, spent ridiculous amounts of money, promoted myself, gotten great reviews and great statements from none other than like Ivan Karp in New York City when OK Harris Works of Art was open. Look that up. Ivan Karp said, good, strong, intelligent work. If I didn't have an abstract expressionist artist now, I'd probably take you on in my stable. He told me that when I met him in person in New York. I tromped the streets of New York City with my portfolio, not once but twice. I did everything possible to promote myself, to get my inside track, to show myself to the right people, get their approval, get that help, hone my talents, hone my skills, hone my abilities. Everybody told me I had the chops, I was good, had the technique, everything. Never have made a living out of it. So do what you love and the money will follow? No, not necessarily. Get yourself out of that. You're doing that and you wonder, why am I failing? Why am I not succeeding? Because it's a lie. You can be anything you want to be. No, you can't. It's a lie. Get yourselves out of those traps. Look at your own strengths and weaknesses and evaluate yourself truthfully and honestly. And see where it is that you might find some success for yourself, and don't measure that success by other people's success or other people's expectations or your own unrealistic expectations. We can have wildly unrealistic expectations of ourselves. Okay? I look like this. Small children scream and run when they see me coming. I'm not going to be a supermodel. Let's be realistic. So let's have realistic expectations of ourselves. Let's find out what we can do and then do it and pursue that to the best of our abilities, and realize that it may not make us the next Oprah or the next Tom Cruise or the next Pearl Jam or whatever. There's just not enough room at the table for everybody to have that success. So just some thoughts on realism and on honesty and on finding our real niche. There's an old story back from when I was an ordained minister that made the rounds, and there was this farmer that he planted corn, and he had great corn. It was delicious, it was juicy, it was wonderful. He was just a whiz at growing corn. People commented on his corn crops. He sold it to stores, sold it to people, and it just the most marvelous corn you ever tasted. This guy had a gift for growing corn. And he loved God, he loved the Lord Jesus Christ, and loved the Bible. And he said, man, I wish I could do more to promote the gospel. And he was laying out under a tree one day instead of working. And he was sitting there just leaned up against the tree and pondering life and pondering what more he could do to the gospel. Maybe he should surrender to preach, and maybe that was his path. And so as he's looking up at this beautiful clear blue sky, these clouds start to form, and they form initials G, P, C. And then they start to spell something out, but he doesn't see that. He jumps up excited and he says, GPC, there's my sign, that's it. Go preach Christ. So he leaves the farm, buys him a suit, and goes out and gets ordained and starts to preach the gospel. Very few souls come to be saved. His sermons are well-meaning, but lackluster and dull and laborious, and he has absolutely no success at all, and he just goes further and further in debt and further down the hole, and he comes back home dejected, and he goes out and takes off his finery, puts on his farm clothes, and he goes and surveys his neglected cornfield and shakes his head and goes back to that same tree and leans up against it and looks up at the sky. He said, Lord, I followed you and I did what you said and I put all my effort into it, and here come the letters in the clouds again, G, P, C. And then it begins to spell out, go, plant, corn. Sometimes we serve God best by exercising the particular gift that he, she, it has given us. Think on that. God bless you. I'll try and come up with a short video of some tools and techniques as promised to maybe help you get a little jump start on things and find some better direction. But in the meantime, be honest with yourself and in your evaluations of yourself. And don't feel like a failure if you can't live up to unrealistic expectations or somebody else's expectations and what they've achieved. Not everybody can. Not even Phil Donahue made it to the superstardom that Oprah did, and he complained about it. So we don't know. Some get the break, some don't, and that's realistic no matter what you do. So there it is for now. Please hit the subscribe button and keep checking. I'm going to try and do a lot more of these videos for you this year. And be coming up on some podcasts again. You can check my website, johnrussell.net, hit the media appearances link, and it's got all my upcoming podcasts that are available this year, going to be available, and one that I've already been on, Rogue Ways with Lindsey Brown. The link to that's available. You should watch that. It's really a doozy. It's really good interview. My books are available on knockingtheattic.net, writingwithghosts.net. You can pick those up at Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, lots of other places online. I think you'll enjoy those. They'll be a good read. If you need a reading, I'm here, johnrussell.net. Full information there on how to get your reading and over 80 client testimonials. I appreciate you tuning in. I enjoy talking with you. I hope it makes a difference for you. Hope you appreciate it. And we will talk again soon. God bless. Bye-bye.